Hello and welcome to my home here in Mijas, Costa in Spain, in sunny Spain, and it's still sunny as it approaches Christmas. And we are having a joyful time here indeed for Christmas because look, I've even got the words joy, and this is actually Casa Joy is the name of my villa here, and Joy was my dear mother, and she comes up everywhere at Christmas. You see the words joy, so we've got joy, and I've even got this little baby Christmas tree. Look, how more Christmassy could you be feeling right now? Now let's get on with this lovely Christmas but simple dish. And the obvious thing to do at Christmas is turkey, but I want to do this dish for you using a free-range chicken breast. And I'm going to show you how to take the chicken off the bone and cook it perfectly and moistly, served with the most beautiful wild mushrooms. Now let's look first at the wild mushrooms. Now these little devils here, look at these trumpets. Now trumpet mushrooms are just delicious, and they're very much in season at the moment. And if you look around in some of the specialist shops, they're not in every supermarket, standard supermarkets, but they're absolutely lovely. And we're just going to fry them gently with a little bit of butter just to bring out the flavour and the texture of those trumpet mushrooms. This is also from the trumpet family. It's a chanterelle, but again, fabulous flavours. And what we're doing is we're celebrating the mushroom season, because in Spain you don't have seasons like you have in the UK. It's kind of like, summer all year round, isn't it really? So you kind of want to embrace what you can get. And this is a sort of Bolitas mushroom here, a slightly bigger, chunkier, but lovely flavours. And then over here, Ricardo's my cameraman today. Ricardo is very quiet. He's Spanish, he's very Spanish. So we have the same problems we normally have, which is basically me speaking away and blabbering away in English and Ricardo not knowing a thing I'm saying. So if I say, Ricardo, can you get close to this? He doesn't. Ricardo, can you get closer? This is setas. These setas, you see, I told you. These setas are lovely. They call them setas in Spanish. In England, we would probably call them oyster mushrooms. And there's another little champiñones, they call them here, another variety. And this is the more regular variety, chestnut mushrooms and the regular button mushrooms here, the white ones and the brown ones. The brown ones are the chestnut ones. And so these are more inexpensive and these are more expensive. So how we're going to deal with them in two different ways. And I'm going to firstly just chop some of these standard mushrooms to make a mushroom sauce. And then I'm going to come back and show you how to do this chicken. So just to chop the mushrooms, just take off a little bit of stalks. And you can use the stalks for stocks and what have you. So don't necessarily throw them away, because waste not, want not. I mean, keep everything. So white mushrooms, brown mushrooms are going to be the basis of this delicious wild mushroom sauce, which actually I became quite well known for in the days of Ready Steady Cook, because I was always doing something with a mushroom sauce, and everybody said, well, how do you make this mushroom sauce? It tastes so good. So here it is, guys. So look, all you do is slice these up. If you're not handy with a knife, don't try this at home, as they say, but you can do anything you like just to chop them up roughly. And you'll notice I'm not chopping up the wild mushrooms, and the reason for that is because I'm going to leave them as whole as I can for the colour and the texture, and because they're that much more expensive, I want to show them off. And these ones are going to be the base. So that's my mushrooms. I'm going to give them a little wash. In fact, really, theoretically, washing mushrooms isn't necessarily a great idea, because there's a lot of water in mushrooms. A mushroom's about 85% water. But with a cheaper mushroom like this, it won't matter. So just give it a little rinse and just let them drain there for a second. Now these ones here, which we're not chopping, but rather kind of selecting, are just not going to be washed. I would just wipe them with a towel. Just pluck off the lens like this and wipe them with a wet towel, a tea towel. And that's all you need. So look, you've got a selection of, again, keeping all the stalks. I'm going to do something with them later. Probably not on this show, but a little stock, making a chicken stock, and you put the mushroom ends in there. Making any stock, vegetable stock, of course, even better. This one's so big, I'm going to have to slice it a little bit. Carefully though. And these ones are the sort of showing off mushrooms, which we're going to use later, as I said. And there's some other ones there. We may as well just get a good selection, put some of these little terras in as well. And this is kind of like a mushroom fest. I've got a tasting menu running at the Little Geranium at the moment in La Cala, and the tasting menu has a load of mushroom dishes on it. It's got a mushroom thing with a starter, it's got a mushroom cannelloni, it's got mushrooms on a main course. And somebody said, well, it's fantastic food, it's the most fantastic food I've ever eaten, but there's so many mushrooms. I mean, do we have to have mushrooms on everything? And I said, well, have you had coffee yet? And they said, no, why? And I said, because we've got mushrooms dipped with chocolate for coffee, to go with coffee as a petit four. And the guy said, really? I said, no, I'm joking. It was a bit of a tease, but there's nothing wrong with embracing something like lovely, beautiful mushrooms when it's the season, because as I said, you don't get them all year round. So that's that, and that's for later. Now, let's move on, Ricardo, to the chicken, because let's just clean this up a little bit, because you know my wife, she'll come home and she'll say, I spent all morning cleaning up and you make a mess, Stephen. Yes, you know, look at the mess of the floor. Well, I always make a mess. Okay, so the chicken is a free-range chicken, delicious little baby here, and I'm going to take it off the bone. I'm going to show you how to do that. So just give the knife a little rinse. Now, when I say off the bone, I mean for quickness and for cooking this like now, I have to do that. If I cook this whole, it would take over an hour to cook. So what we do is pull the leg up, make a little incision here, just so it opens up. Break this little bit here with your thumb. It just sort of, you can go like that and you can hear it. And then take the leg off. Okay, so that's the leg gone. The wings, I'm going to cut just through there. Again, don't waste any of this, Ricardo. I hope you're listening to this. Don't waste any of this, because at home we could use this for stock, or even little chicken wings. This bit would be used for stock, and this would be just used for roasted chicken wings. Put them in a marinade and then push them through the oven. It's delicious. Now, I know we started by saying Christmas, and of course we know Christmas is on the doorstep, and I haven't done any shopping at all, so I'm in trouble already. But you could do this with turkey. So you could either do it with a whole turkey and take the breasts off like I'm doing now, and then you'd roast the whole breast and then carve it and serve it with this lovely wild mushroom sauce. Or you could buy the breast fillets, and they're quite large, so you'd probably have one would feed two, and you'd cut them in half and you'd sear it, much in the same way as I'm going to deal with the chicken, and then you put it with the wild mushroom sauce. So either way, bear in mind, this is a fantastic dish for turkey. Ricardo, can you come back over here, just a bit closer to me? Here, just come here, just look at this, because I'm making a little incision in here, Ricardo. Look, just there. And I'm going to cut through to take the breast off the carcass. Like that. So you pull it away, you cut it down, pull it away, you can see what you're doing. And then at this point, you've got the wing there in the way, but don't worry about that, you're cutting it through, because actually I want the wing bone in the chicken. So I end up with that. Now let's put that back on again. You do the same on the other side, obviously. So you then tidy this up a little bit. Like that. And then also, I tidy this little bit up here as well. So you've got a nice, tidy wing bone showing for the chicken. I'm sure you get the gist of this. I'll probably make a little bit better job of this if I had a bit more time on cleaning it up, I mean. So, just holding the chicken down and pull, and you'll end up with something that looks nice and clean and tidy. Again, don't waste any of these little bits, because they're all good for stock, all good for your chicken stock. Now under here, under the skin, we can put a little bit of butter. So we're going to just lift up the skin gently, like that. Take another knife, just give my hands a little rinse, dealing with raw chicken isn't the safest thing in the world. A little bit of unsalted butter, and just pop that underneath the chicken skin. You see that? Like that. And then some salt, some pepper, and a little bit of herb. Just a little bit. That's coriander, or cilantro as you call it in Spain and the US, just underneath. Now that I'm going to leave there for you to look at for a second while we move over, because that I'm going to cook in a second, and we're going to start making the mushroom sauce. So follow me over here and let's have a look at it. Ricardo, here we are over at the little hob. This is electric, and I'd much prefer to have gas fire, as all chefs would, but this is the villa's. There's no gas in the village anyway, so we have to have electric, unless we want propane bottles, and I'd burn through it so quickly. So get a pan really, really, really hot. Now I mean smoking hot, baby. Put a little extractor fan on if that's not going to affect your sound system. A little bit of olive oil goes into the pan. And when I do this, Michelle always thinks I've set fire to something and says, "Stephen, what are you burning now?" But I'm not. I'm just doing what you're supposed to do. You need heat. And then skin side down. Remember, we put that butter and the herbs and all the seasoning under the skin. Skin side down in the pan. Okay. Touch more olive oil. And then a touch of butter. I know we've got butter underneath it. We've got butter everywhere. All for flavour. And let that skin caramelize. Season again on the other side. And just leave it there. Don't keep fiddling around with it, moving it around. Just leave it there. Let it do its thing for a minute. Now, whilst it's doing its thing, we can look in this pan here, a nice hot pan, and again, in a little bit of olive oil, we're going to fry a little bit of onion, just normal onion, white onion. A little bit of garlic chopped up, Ricardo's normal garlic. Fresh garlic. How much garlic? How much onion, I hear you say? Stephen, how much? Well, it doesn't really matter. It's just got to have enough onion and enough garlic, you know. It's much, if you love the flavour of garlic, put 2 cloves in. If you don't, put 1. It's as simple as that. So keeping a watch on the chicken while that's frying. Turn it over and cook the other side. You can see I've got a nice colour on that. Whilst this is cooking in here, a little bit more oil. And then we start adding the mushrooms. Remember, the less expensive mushrooms, the chestnut mushrooms and the button mushrooms, which we chopped and then washed, are all going in this pot. Can you come and have a look in here, Ricardo? Look, all going in this pot together. Like one big happy family, really. They're all getting on like house on fire. Talking of which, the house will be on fire in a minute if we don't get that chicken in the oven. So the chicken's fine, and actually, unbelievably, the butter is still reasonably solid under the skin, and all the herb and the butter and seasoning is melting into the breast. And that gives it a lovely moisture. And when it's cooking in the oven and it melts through the chicken breast with all the seasoning in there, now you got it. Now you're rocking. So look, in here, the mushrooms, the garlic, the onions, get some colour. And I mean colour, I mean get some flavour out of them. There's no point in putting them in a pan and then insipidly putting stock on and you've got no flavour. You need to caramelise them. So you need to get this heat up and you need to get it hot, baby. Like that. Now meantime, this chicken is ready to go in the oven. You notice I use my hands for pretty much everything. But you don't have to. I mean, I'm so used to it. But you should probably use a spatula. So, there we are. Now, before that goes in the oven, just like that, let's turn this off. Michelle will be having a go at me again. We're going to put some more butter on it, would you believe? We're going to put a little bit of chicken stock on it. just a normal chicken. We make our own chicken stock, but you can buy caldo de pollo over here, is what it's called, and it's everywhere. Pour some chicken stock on it. We're going to put a little bit more seasoning on top, and we're going to put a little bit of herb. It's coriander, parsley. Not don't go mad, you know, just a little bit of, or tarragon is lovely, because tarragon and mushrooms is lovely together on top. Now that, I always think cooking's about presentation as well. I mean, I know this is a raw piece of chicken breast, but that makes me feel good about it before it goes in the oven. So now it goes in the oven, and because it's Christmas, I've been roasting chestnuts, and this has got nothing to do with the dish at all. But here we are, look, roasting chestnuts. And all these chestnuts, I've slashed them first and I've just roasted them. I mean, we could top the chicken with a few roasted chestnuts if you like, and there's a few nods going on in the audience, so maybe we'll do that later. But I just love the smell of roasted chestnuts, so whether I eat them or not, I don't care. I just want to roast chestnuts. It's Christmas, for God's sake. It should be all in joyful spirit. It's Christmas. That reminds me. It's Christmas, and we haven't had a Christmas drink. And this is for, somebody said to me the other day, when you do this bit where you have a drink, you sound and look exactly like Keith Floyd. And I knew Keith Floyd very well. He's a lovely man. Rest in peace, Keith. This is for you. Cheers. And this is not just any old wine. This is a bottle of Chablis, which I know isn't Spanish, it's French, but it's a brilliant wine. A very good friend of mine said to me the other day, and believe me, he's a barrister. Well, actually, he's a lawyer. He's a lawyer. And he's a very, very intelligent man. And he asked, and he's a very, very good wine expert. And he was saying to me, where in Spain do you get your, where do they grow Chablis in Spain? And I said, what, they don't grow Chablis in Spain. Chablis comes from France. I mean, what are you talking about? He went, oh God, sorry, I just thought I'd mention it, because it's like, of course Chablis comes from France. It's an area, it's not a grape. So into this pan, Ricardo, look, with the mushrooms are now cooking down, a little bit of white wine, a little bit in here as well. It makes the job so much more fun. And it's Christmas, and the producers can't complain because it's Christmas, and that is just fantastic. So in that little pot with the mushrooms, the onion and the garlic and the chicken stock that I put in that, I'm going to put more chicken stock in there too. Okay, now that sauce will be our mushroom base, and it needs to cook out for a little bit, and it's going to cook out rapidly now. And in the oven, the chicken's going to need at least 10 minutes. I'll drop that down. You can see that looking great, and it's just going to need 10 minutes. And of course, this is cooking for one because I've put one breast in, but you know, you'd be cooking for more than one. So put 2 in, or 3 in, or 4 in, or whatever. So into this sauce, we're now going to add some cream. This is good old English cream, but you can add any cream you feel like. It's got to be a thick cream though. And then reduce it. So we're talking about full power here. How much cream? How much cream, audience, do we put in this? How much? It doesn't matter. It's just enough to emulsify. It's enough to make that sauce look like that. Ricardo, can you come over here? Ricardo is actually an amazing cameraman. He's Spanish and doesn't speak a single word of English. And me no hablo mucho español. So we are already in difficulties, but we get through it because we have both got a willing desire to win. So just a quick recap, guys. The chicken's in the oven, okay? It's about 180 degrees centigrade. It's a hot oven, 180 to 200. You want to cook it quite fast because it gets a nice crispy skin. Do you remember when I put it in that dish? I put it in a little bit of stock, but the skin's sticking out. It's not covered in the stock. So the skin will get crispy, and it's lovely when it's like that because you can eat the skin. And the chicken breast will be lovely and moist because it's cooked in the stock and it's got all that butter, if you remember. So come back over here, Ricardo, and have a look at the sauce after a few minutes. After a few minutes, it's thickened up like this. Now, a little trick, which is a bit naughty, but it works very nicely, is just to take a little teaspoon or 2 of gravy browning, not gravy browning, but gravy granules, sorry, gravy granules. You know, I don't do this in the restaurant because we have fresh stocks, but at home I do, and the reason I do it at home is I haven't got fresh stocks, and it helps to thicken it up a little bit as well. And that's the oven saying it's reached a temperature and it's just about ready, the chicken. So it's telling me that. So, you know, you choose to do that or not, but the point is, what I'm really saying is it just helps to thicken that sauce up a bit, but kind of almost naturally. It gives a nice darkness to it. So leaving that alone, if it gets too thick, then the best news in the world is just add a bit more Chablis. But it doesn't have to be Chablis, it can be, you know, cooking wine. And I've done this dish so many times, and normally I drink at least a bottle of wine, and by the end of it, I'm putting it on a plate, and who cares? I don't mean that really. I do care, which is why I'm here. In this pan, Ricardo, the one that's burning on the stove here, I'm going to put a little bit more butter. We use a lot of butter. Classic French cooking butter, onions, garlic. This is more Spanish with you adding olive oil. A little bit of olive oil will stop the butter from melting, will stop the butter from burning. And then we put in our wild mushrooms, the ones that we sifted through, the ones that we took the ends off, the ones we cleaned with a damp cloth. Albeit you didn't see that, I did do that, I'm a good boy. And a little bit of salt. And if you like, a little bit of pepper, which has wandered over here to the other side of the kitchen, because things move around my kitchen. I'm forever saying, who's moved the salt? And they say, well, chef, we haven't touched the salt. I mean, it was just where you left it. And it is, but I can't find it. Does that make sense? Anyway, so look, the mushrooms are frying away nicely. And you don't want to overcook these mushrooms, Ricardo. When you do this at home, Ricardo, for your wife, look, you can see the mushrooms are not falling to pieces. They're completo, they're entera. Entera? See? Entera, he says, nodding, yes. The camera's going like, nothing, exactly. Entera. So we've got to keep them entera. And little trompettes, look, lovely little trompettes. Beautiful little mushrooms they are. And the little charolles, de rolls, and chanterelles, and bolitas. There's lots of beautiful mushrooms in there. And lots of beautiful flavour. So the mushroom sauce is ready. The mushrooms are ready. The chestnuts roasting on the open fire, not quite an open fire, are ready. So everything's ready. Let's go. So chicken comes out of the oven. Now, all these lovely juices here in the chicken, which you've got, the stock, don't waste them. Pour a little bit of them into the sauce. And stir that in, so you've got all the flavour. Nothing's wasted, we don't waste a thing. And then we take this pot over to the show table, which is here. We put some of the mushroom sauce on the bottom. And this is the mushrooms, as you know, with the chestnut mushrooms and the cheaper mushrooms, if you like. Okay. We give the plate a little cleanie. We take the other two pans over so as not to confuse you. I'll get rid of the mushrooms. We put the chicken, take the herb off it now, on the top, like that. We take the little truffle oil, which is key. Truffle oil is fantastic, you know. I mean, what I did, this truffle oil is so strong nowadays that when you sprinkle it on a dish, it's just like, wow, it's so big and so powerful, it's overpowering. So what I do is I take some of the truffle oil out and put it into another bottle, and I put good quality olive oil on top just to dilute it, but actually it makes so much difference. It's so much nicer when it's like, it's still very truffly. Put a little bit of truffle oil over the top, and you can pour more because you're not having that intensity. And we're going to put a little bit more salt on it. Then we're going to take these chestnuts, which we roasted, as you saw, and I slashed them first before I roasted them, so you can easily get them out, look, like this. And if you like, you could caramelize this with a little bit of butter and a touch of sugar, which would be nice, just to go around this, but we haven't got the time, so I'm just going to literally break them down with my fingers and just drop the chestnuts in and around the dish, which will just give a nice texture. And you don't need to do too much to them, because roasted chestnuts, when they're like this, I mean, honestly, you know, so delicious like that, aren't they? And the thing is that it reminds me of Christmas. As soon as you smell it and taste it, you think, Christmas. I always think of the stocking, and you know, my mum's given me all my presents and stuff, but Well, that doesn't happen anymore. I never get any presents. So on top of that, then we're going to put the lovely wild mushrooms, which you saw me frying in the butter. And we're going to do a nice pile of them on top. It doesn't matter if some of them fall off. The idea is just to show them off. Like that. A little bit of truffle oil, because we've diluted it, we can use more of it around the outside as well. And then to finish, a very small amount of parsley, or tarragon if you like. Oh, there goes my mushrooms. And I'll put them back. Okay, a little bit of parsley, not too much. Just around the outside. And there you have it. A very simple dish. Turkey works equally as well. That is roasted turkey or chicken breast, free range. A lovely wild mushroom creamy sauce finished with truffles, roasted chestnuts, and topped with the most delicious wild mushrooms, trompettes, girolles, chanterelles. Fantastic. I loved cooking it. I love you. I love you watching it. God bless and happy Christmas.